The storage was empty, 3 days before the first snow, and Milo stared into a hole that should have been full. Not one seed, not one nut. Just dry leaves and the sound of his own breathing. Weeks earlier, he had promised the whole forest he'd have the biggest winter store anyone had ever seen. Every animal had heard it. Every animal had believed it. And now, with winter's first cold wind cutting through the trees, Milo had nothing to show but empty walls and a stomach that already ached with fear. Something had gone wrong. Something he hadn't seen coming. And by the time he understood it, it might already be too late. One morning, a small mouse named Milo ran through the forest with excitement in his eyes. "I will build the biggest food storage in the forest before winter," he shouted. Every animal he met heard the same thing. The rabbit heard it. The squirrel heard it. The birds heard it. Even the lazy crow sitting high in the oak tree heard it. "I have a great plan," Milo told them, again and again. "I will collect more food than anyone. This winter will be my best season ever." The animals smiled. They congratulated him, and Milo loved every second of it. The more they praised him, the more he talked. Instead of collecting food, he spent his mornings telling others what he was going to do. He described the shape of his storage. He described how full it would be. He painted pictures with words, and the forest listened, and the forest clapped. "I found the perfect spot for it," he announced one day. "I'll fill it with nuts and seeds," he said the next. "I'm going to be the most prepared animal in this whole forest," he declared a few days after that. "Wow, Milo," the animals kept saying. "That's impressive." Each compliment settled into him like warmth. It felt like success. It felt like he had already won, even though, if anyone had checked his storage, they would have found it almost bare. One afternoon, Milo met an old turtle resting near the stream. The turtle listened quietly while Milo explained his plans. All of them, in full detail, with the same pride he showed everyone else. When Milo finally finished, the turtle smiled, slow and calm. "Have you already built the storage?" "No," Milo said. "Not yet." "Have you collected enough food?" "Not yet." "But I will." "Then why?" the turtle asked gently. "Are you celebrating?" Milo laughed. "I'm not celebrating. I'm just sharing my plans." The turtle shook his head, slowly. "Be careful, little one. Sometimes talking about success feels so good that people stop working for it." Milo didn't understand. He thought the old turtle was simply being negative, the way old creatures sometimes were. He thanked him politely and ran off, already thinking about who else he could tell. The next day, Milo told even more animals about his plans. And that's when something unexpected began. The crow, perched high above, started watching him more closely. Whenever Milo discovered a good food source, a patch of ripe berries, a cluster of fallen acorns, he'd announce it proudly to anyone nearby. "I found something wonderful today," he'd say, describing exactly where. The crow would fly there first thing the next morning and take what he could. Soon, a few other animals began doing the same. Not out of cruelty, just out of the same instinct any creature has. If the food is being talked about, someone will go get it. Milo kept sharing, without realizing what it was costing him. Weeks passed. And then, one evening, Milo finally looked, really looked, into his storage. It was almost empty. Winter was closing in fast, and for the first time, real fear crept into his chest. "How can this be?" he whispered to himself. "I've been working for weeks." But when he was honest with himself, truly honest, he saw it clearly. A lot of those weeks hadn't been spent working at all. They'd been spent talking about future work, talking about future success, talking about results that hadn't happened yet. He had been feeding his pride instead of his storage. That evening, Milo sat alone beside the stream, the cold water reflecting a sky already darkening early. The old turtle appeared again, moving slowly along the bank. "You look worried," the turtle said. "I don't understand," Milo admitted, his voice smaller than usual. "I had such a great plan." The turtle nodded, settling beside him. "A plan is only a seed. The work is what makes it grow." Milo lowered his head. "I thought sharing my plans would motivate me." "Sometimes it does," the turtle replied. "But often, creatures enjoy the praise before they've earned it. Their minds start feeling rewarded too early, and once the mind feels rewarded, it stops pushing for the real reward." Milo stayed silent. Deep down, he already knew the turtle was right. "There's an old truth," the turtle continued, watching the water drift by. "Talk shrinks the goal. Every time you describe what you're going to do, some part of you feels like you've already done it a little. And that feeling, that small taste of success, takes just enough hunger away that you never chase the real thing with your whole heart." "Then what do I do?" Milo asked. "Winter is almost here." The turtle looked at him steadily. "Stop announcing. Start moving. Let your storage speak when it's full, not before." The next morning, Milo made a decision. He didn't tell the rabbit. He didn't tell the squirrel. He didn't say a single word to the crow watching from the branches above. He simply began collecting. At first, it felt strange, almost lonely. There was no applause. No one told him impressive as he dragged a seed across the dirt. No one clapped as he stacked nuts along the storage wall. But something else happened instead. Without the praise pulling his attention away, his focus sharpened. He noticed the best roots through the underbrush. He noticed which trees dropped the fattest acorns. He started before sunrise and kept going long after the other animals had settled for the evening. Some days were hard. His paws ached. The wind turned sharper by the hour, and more than once he wanted to stop and tell someone, anyone, just to feel that old rush of approval again. But he remembered the turtle's words, and he kept his mouth shut and his paws moving. Slowly, quietly, his storage began to fill. Not with words, with work. 3 weeks later, the first real snow began to fall. The rabbit, passing by out of curiosity, stopped near Milo's burrow and froze. Through the entrance, she could see it. Rows of acorns, stacks of dried berries, seeds packed in neat, careful layers. A storage fuller than anything she'd ever seen. "Milo," she said, stunned. "When did you do all this?" Milo just smiled. "While I was quiet." Word spread through the forest. Not because Milo told anyone, but because they saw it with their own eyes. The animal who used to announce everything had said almost nothing for weeks. And in that silence, he had built more than his loudest promises ever could. Even the crow, watching from his branch, found nothing left to take. There had been no announcements to follow, no location shared before the food was already safely stored. Winter came in full that year, harsh and long. But inside Milo's burrow, there was more than enough to last until spring. One evening, the old turtle visited, moving slowly through the fresh snow. He looked around at the full storage and nodded with quiet approval. "You learned it," the turtle said. "I did," Milo answered. "The forest didn't need to hear my plans. It only needed to see my results." The turtle smiled. "That's the whole secret, little one. Anyone can talk about the mountain they're going to climb. Only the quiet ones actually reach the top. And by the time everyone notices, they're already standing there. Talk about your dreams, and you spend the fire that was meant to build them. Protect your plans in silence, and let your results do the announcing. If this story reminded you of a dream you've been talking about instead of building, it might be time to go quiet and go to work. Subscribe for more stories that turn simple lessons into lasting change.